Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel, Joyful Jessie. If you are new here, I am Jessie. In today's video, I simply want to share with you guys my experience with my recent emergency surgery that I had to have and the events leading up to it. I was in a life-threatening situation with internal hemorrhaging. So I want to share that with you guys. I'm hoping to bring awareness and to remind ourselves the importance of listening to our body. I am very grateful and thankful to, first and foremost, the Lord, because I am here and I am alive and I am recovering well. Foremost, would like to thank all of you for all your thoughtful comments and well wishes and prayers for a speedy recovery. I truly appreciate it. It means so much to me and I am so grateful for it. What I ended up having was a laparoscopic oophorectomy. Oophorectomy. I think I mentioned it right. If I didn't, pretty much they removed one of your ovaries. Plain and simple. That's what happened. But in my case, it was a little bit more complicated than just the removal of one ovary and a D&C. Those were the things that were performed on me, and the removal of 1,700 milliliters of blood. There's another H word for it. I just can't pronounce that word. That's what happened here. So pretty much I have one incision on my right, one incision on my left, and through my belly button, there was an incision, and then there was 4 dots around my belly button, and there was no stapling. She used this glue to kind of help the wounds be closed up together, which is pretty nifty. I was like, oh my goodness, this is pretty awesome. Like, I was pretty impressed at how much medicine has advanced throughout the years. My ovary was like 4 times the size as my regular ovary on my left. There's pictures. I mean, if I had the pictures with me right now, I would show you. I actually asked the doctor if I could have them because I was so impressed when she was explaining it to me. It was pretty intense. I was like, whoa, I even got to see my liver. There was blood all around, pooling in that area, but I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. So here's my story. As many of you know, the last several months have been a little bit rocky for us. In June, I had a D&C because I had polyps in my uterus, just to remove those. In October 7th, I had a D&C because I had a miscarriage. And now that December's here, this new event happened. I am generally a very healthy person. Thankfully, I don't have any previous health conditions. Things have generally been okay for me, besides me going to my doctors once a year. I go to my annual visits to the gynecologist and I do my physicals with my regular doctor, and generally speaking, I'm pretty well. The only thing I've ever really had issues with when it comes to female issues has been with cysts. That has been a thing for me. Initially, I was on birth control to help prevent cysts, and they would monitor them. But then after I had kids, things got a little bit better. Before having kids, I had experienced ruptured cysts, and that was painful. But other than that, it never really progressed to something bad. It was just ruptures, I had some cramping, move on with life. Nothing serious. In this particular case, my problem, I would have to say, began on Tuesday. I was sitting at work, not doing anything major. I was just sitting there and I was administering a test to the kids. And all of a sudden, I just felt like a pain. I didn't think it was a ruptured cyst. I really didn't think of it that way. I was so emotionally wrapped around my miscarriage, and I had just been given the news that there were still some contents of the pregnancy in my uterus and that a D&C was a thing that might have had to happen. I was not thinking, oh, a cyst has bursted. As a matter of fact, when I went on my last sono a week before this particular event happened, I was told that I had a cyst on my right ovary. The technician said, you have a cyst on your right ovary. And she said, we're gonna measure that. And I wasn't concerned about that at all. Like, okay, a cyst, I'm used to this kind of stuff. So she measured it. I said, is it a problem? She says, well, it might just be part of your cycle. We'll wait and see. A week later, this happens. The last thing I'm thinking is that is a ruptured cyst. In my mind, I thought, oh, great. This is the remaining part that is in my uterus, and maybe my uterus is getting rid of it, and this is it. I've been praying for this to happen. The only difference was that it was on my right side. That's where the pain was at. I texted a coworker if she could come and watch my kids for a little bit while I go to the bathroom. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, let me go to the bathroom and check and see if this is actually passing. And that was not the case. Then I was walking back to my room, and I had a very hard time walking back. It hurt to walk back. I came back into my room, I sat down, and I told her, this is really bad. I don't think I can stay here. That's how bad it got. So I went in, I told my supervisors at work, like, I need to go home. And they were like, yeah, sure, you don't look good. And I remember my boss telling me, you need to go to the hospital. You need to take care of this. Like, this can be a serious thing. At first, I was like, no, I'll be fine. I can just drive myself home. And my boss was like, you're not driving yourself home. Somebody else is driving you home. You're leaving your car here. You're not driving in this condition. They could tell, like, I was not doing very well. So I was driven home, and my coworker that was driving me home was like, are you sure you don't want me to take you to the hospital? You don't look well. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I had called the doctor's office. I had left the message. I was not concerned. The pain was more of like a pulsating pain. Like, it would come, and it was sharp. It was sharp, and like it would come and go and come and go. So she was like, are you sure? And she's like, let me help you. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, I'll be okay. I'll wait till the doctor calls me back. And if the doctor tells me I need to go to the hospital, then I will. In the meantime, I don't want to go to the ER because they'll just poke me a gazillion times. And then I'll just end up coming home with them telling me I have nothing. So she was like, okay, well, make sure to keep me updated. She texted me like, how am I doing? I had taken some ibuprofen. I still had like the 600 milligrams from when I had my DNC, always in my backpack just in case. And I took one at work. And by the time I got home, the pain did ease. Like, it wasn't as severe. I was able to climb up the steps, and I just laid down with a heating pad waiting for the doctor's office to call me back. As the day went on, the pain got less and less. And so I was like, oh, whew, okay. When the nurse had called me back, she had asked me, like, are you bleeding? And I was like, no, I'm not bleeding at all. It's just pain. She's like, okay. When she talked to me, she told me, okay, the doctor wants to do a urine culture. Let's check your ACG levels. We'll go from there. Depending on that, how that comes back, it might be a UTI. So I went in that same day, got some blood work, got the urine culture. The next day she calls me back, says it's not a UTI. And my HCG levels are dropping. So I was like, yay, that's great news. Like, no, DNC, the stuff is dropping. So in my mind, honestly, I thought, this is what it was. The next day I did take off of work because it was painful still, not bad, but painful enough that I did not want to go to work and then be sent home again. I stayed in bed pretty much all day with the heating pad. And then by 4 o'clock that day, I was fine. The pain had gone. There was mild discomfort, not enough discomfort to prevent me from doing my daily tasks. I was excited. I went back to work the next day. In my mind, I was like, oh my goodness, that was it, even though I hadn't passed anything. In the middle of all that, like, in my mind, never did it cross, hey, it might be that you ruptured a cyst. Plus, it had been years since that had happened to me. So in my mind, what I was thinking was, the stuff has passed. Maybe I will need a DNC. My goodness, was I wrong. Thursday, I went to work without a problem. Friday, I went to work without a problem. Friday, around 11:30 at night, all of a sudden, I feel this just like pain, just sharp onset pain on my lower right side. And I remember telling Sean, oh my gosh, Sean, the pain's coming back. Oh, this time I can't move. It hurts really, really bad. I was like, maybe I need to go to the bathroom. So in my mind, I was thinking, if I go to the bathroom, maybe there's something there. Maybe this is it. This is the big thing that needs to happen, that it needs to pass. I told Sean, can you help me get to the bathroom? It hurts to even try to get up. So he gets me up. He helps me to the bathroom, and then I sit on the toilet, and it hurts so bad to use the restroom, and I'm like passing out. He's telling me, hey, Hans, get up. And as I'm sitting there on the toilet, I just keep passing out. And he's like, are you okay? Like, do you need something? And I'm like, I just think maybe this is it. This is it. And then I wipe and nothing. So I was like, maybe this is just part of it all. How about just leave me in the bathroom? Like, he laid me down quickly. He's like, okay, I think maybe your blood pressure is dropping or something. So he laid me down, And I was like, just put my feet up. Like when I've donated blood before, this is what they do when I get dizzy. So he put my feet up, took my blood pressure, and my blood pressure seemed to be okay. He tells me I was very pale at the time. He sat there with me for about 2 to 3 hours because I couldn't move. I was laying on the floor with my feet up and I couldn't move. Like to move hurt so bad. So he was like, okay, here. He brought me my pillows. He brought me my blankets to the bathroom and the heating pad. Maybe this will just pass like it did on Tuesday. Maybe I just need the heating pad and an ibuprofen and everything will be fine. I think this is just part of this process. He was so tired. The poor thing. I told him, just go to bed. Don't worry about me. Just leave me here. And if I have to use the restroom, I'll wake you up. He's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, just go lay down, get some rest. Tomorrow is another day. I'll just call you if I need your help to get into the toilet. He was like, don't get up without me. Well, stubborn me. I felt bad around 5 in the morning. I was like, oh my gosh, I really have to go to the bathroom, but I don't want to wake him up. So I sit myself up in the toilet and I feel everything going black and I shout Sean and he comes over running and I pass out. And then he's like, okay, this is not okay. I need to take you to the doctor. So I was like, okay, yes, maybe just take me to the emergency room. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna get you to the bed. And then he tried to get me up and I just kept passing out. I was like, I don't think I can walk it. So then we just kind of crawled into bed and he was like, okay, I'm gonna get you dressed. So he got me dressed. He was like, let me go get the car. Let me go get it ready. And he went and got the car, got everything ready. And then he was like, okay, here, let's get you up. And then he went to get me up and I'm like, it was like excruciating pain that went from the right side. It was radiating all the way up to my rib cage. It was so horrible. Any little move was just excruciating. And so as he tried to do that, I just passed out again. And then he was like, okay, I can't take you to the hospital. I think we need to call an ambulance. And at that point I was just like, fine, whatever, just call the ambulance. I didn't care. He called the ambulance and they told him, make sure she's not moving. So he comes up, he's like, do not move. Stay in this very position. And I was like, I'm not gonna move, I'm okay. He's like, I'm gonna clear the pathway up. So he went, moved the cars out of the driveway. We have a very long driveway. Paramedics were here very fast. They were here quickly. I would say in under 5 minutes they were here. And they came in, they started taking my vitals. My blood pressure was low. They, ask you the questions. They were very sweet guys, by the way. And they were like, okay, after everything, they asked me what hospital did I typically go to. I told them. So they were like, okay, can we try to get you to at least this chair? And I was like, I can try, it really hurts. So they try to sit me up and then again, I start passing and you're like, oh no, we're not doing that. So paramedics sent the other guy to go and grab, they have this bag thing that they carry you out in. And so with some blankets, cause it's winter, it's cold outside and I'm here not winterly dressed. So they put this thing on the bed, they rolled me over to this other thing, strapped me, and carried me down the steps in this bag. And it was really painful. Sean, on the other hand, was just making sure that the kids did not see what was happening. He didn't want them to have that image of me being carried out like that because he knew last time when he had his incident and the ambulance had to come and get him because of his heart situation, it was very traumatic for Noah. And the kids peeked out when they were carrying me out and Sean had told him, keep the door closed. And so then they took me out and then apparently Sean says the kids were looking out the window and were screaming because they still, they're kids. They're gonna wanna know what's going on. These two guys are coming to take my mom and they're taking her out in a bag, type of deal. As they put me in the stretcher, the pain. Every bump that I felt was excruciating, sharp pain everywhere. They got me into the ER. They worked very swiftly and very quickly in the ER. When I got there, they moved me over to the other bed. They started an IV, and as the lady was starting the IV, I started throwing up. Sean had given me a little bit of toast before going to the hospital. He was like, here, maybe your sugar's low. So he had given me a little bit of toast and some eggs, and I was throwing it all up. Like as she's doing my IV, she did it really quickly, really good. They removed my clothes because I'm sorry, this is TMI, but this is what happens when people go into these shocks. I was throwing up, and I was throwing up, everything else was coming out. So I had no control over my body. So after that event happened, they removed my bottom parts off, kind of cleaned me up. And she was like, can you sit up so we can remove your shirt? I was like, it's very hard. Like they've tried and I haven't had any success. So she's like, here, we can help you up. So they helped me up, and then my blood pressure dropped down. And she was like, oh, so they put me back down and they started administering like fast IV fluids on me. And they were just monitoring. They really wanted my blood pressure to come up. After that, whoever came in and said, we're gonna send you off to a CT scan. They did this very quickly. I was pretty impressed at how fast this hospital worked. They did the CT scan. I had never had a CT scan done before. It was a really interesting feeling. Lady told me, you're gonna feel like you're peeing yourself. And I was like, oh, okay. At the time, I was like, whatever. My extremities got really warm, like really warm. And I did feel like, oh, this is warm. It was a weird feeling. So after that, I was taken back to my room in the ER, and 15 to 20 minutes later, I think the PA or the doctor came in and told me that according to CT scan, there's some sort of internal bleeding that is happening. He's like, you have what seems to be a dense liquid all around your belly, and there seems to be a mass on your ovary. And I told him, yes, I did get told I had a cyst on my right ovary. He's like, yes, so what we're going to do is we're going to transfer you to the women's hospital, and they're going to take over from there. And at this point, Sean had just arrived. They took me over to the women's hospital. As soon as I was there, they did a sono, an internal one. The internal one wasn't as painful as the external one. Like any sort of touch to my abdomen hurt so much. Like it hurt so bad. So when they were doing the external one, they wanted to see like what was going on. So the doctor was amazing. She comes in, she was explaining everything, every move of the way. So they did the external sono. They wanted to see exactly where this was at. And then they did the internal one. So from it, she came to the conclusion and she told us, okay, we need to operate. And she was like, the very first thing I'm going to do is I want to do a laparoscopic kind of like diagnosis evaluation. She's like, I can see what's happening from the outside, but I want to exactly see what's happening on the inside. She said, there's just several things that can happen here. I have to go in, first of all, and I have to remove that internal bleeding that you have. That is blood that you have. You are bleeding internally. So she was like, I have to remove that as soon as possible and stop it. And then she was like, your left ovary looks good. However, your right ovary, we can't see. There's something covering it up. So I have to go in there and see what's happening. If it's a cyst, I can try to remove the cyst and save the ovary. If I can't save the ovary, I will have to remove the right ovary. You will still have a left ovary, so you will not need any hormones. In the case of me having to save your life, I might have to remove your uterus depending on what's in there. And she's like, at that point, there's no more babies. And we were like, it's okay, move whatever you need to remove. So she discussed all the incisions that she might have to make. And unless she really has to remove that uterus, she's not going to remove anything that doesn't need to be removed. If we can keep your tube there, we'll keep it. She was going to save as much as she could. She says she wasn't 100% sure until she went in and see what was going on the inside. The doctor also told me that I might need a blood transfusion depending on the amount of blood I had lost. And if I was okay with that, we were like, yep, whatever you need to do. And at this point, I was so like, I didn't care. Like, just do whatever you need to do. Just take whatever you need to take and make me feel better. Because it was excruciating. The doctor had also told me that while she was doing this, she was also going to do another DNC to remove the remaining contents of the pregnancy because that was still in there. So there was debunked that theory that pain was from that. One thing I really like about this hospital is that they assign you a nurse and the nurse is there with you. She, like in my case, it was Julia. She says, hi, I'm Julia. I am going to be with you before your surgery. I will be here with you after your surgery. And then before they put me in the OR, the anesthesiologist came out and she explained to me like what she was doing. She said, you're going to be going under general anesthesia. After I administer and your anesthesia and you're put to sleep, I am going to be putting a breathing tube in you. And I just started panicking because the idea of a breathing tube, just, there's a lot that goes behind that, and it scared me. And my nurse just held my hand really tight. She's like, it's okay, I know this is new for you, but they know what they're doing. They do this on a daily basis. You're gonna be okay. You're in good hands. They take me to the OR, and this operating room was very different than my previous operating rooms that I had been in for my DNC. This one actually looked like a spaceship. It was like so interesting looking. And I was very alert for when the lady called it French fry straps. They put my arms like this and they strapped my arms, they strapped my legs. At this point, I was still breathing very shallowly. I was like, because it was very hard to even breathe as well. And I felt whenever the anesthesiology put something in that made me very calm, and all of a sudden I could breathe. And I was a little bit more relaxed, a lot less tense. And then they put the green thingamajigger to, I guess, put you to sleep. And they told me to take 3 deep breaths. I took like 10 before I was out. I was like, they're like, keep breathing it in. And I'm like, you know, like, it's not, I'm going to sleep. And eventually I did want to sleep. Waking up from this was very different than waking up from whenever I had my DNCs. I was very in and out. I would wake up a minute like this. I remember waking up, seeing Sean on the right hand side, very faded, like very blurry, and then him saying, hey Hans, and then me falling back asleep. Like, it was very in and out. After that, I woke up and Sean explained to me everything that happened. And he was like, there's pictures. The doctor came out with pictures and showed me everything they did inside of you and stuff. He's like, yeah, you had a really big cyst on your right ovary. They removed almost 2 liters of blood that you had in there. They did a DNC. You still have your uterus and your left ovary. I was like, okay. It was very hard to talk. I remember from the tube, I guess, I had a very hoarse voice. They moved me up to the other floor and I was gonna be kept in there for observation. They did tell me I might have to spend the night, and I was like, it's okay. They told me I needed to eat. They gave me pudding right away to try to get me to eat. And I was still very nauseous. I have a video showing my recovery in the hospital. It's amazing how, like, I would say like every 30 minutes, I gradually started getting so much better. It's just amazing how the body works. It's mind-blowing when I think about it in retrospect. If I could tell a week ago, like before this all happened, I would have told myself, quit being so hard-headed, go to the hospital, get taken care of. I'm not one to ever go to the ER. And I think that's part of the thing. Like, I'm always like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll get over it. After this experience, one of my biggest take-home lessons is listen to your body. Your body knows when something is not right and is sending you signals. So in my case, I'm like, I will never ignore pain again the way I did this time. I will never ignore what my body is trying to tell me. My body was created a certain way to give these signals out when something is not okay. And I need to quit being so hard-headed and so stubborn and actually admit that I need help. I'm a very independent person. And through this whole process, I have had to lean so much on my husband and be so dependent on somebody else. This has broken me. By the grace of God, I'm still alive. A little bit longer and I might have gone into shock. I could have suffered organ failure and all that if I would have waited any longer. I praise the Lord that I'm here and I made it on time. One of my biggest fears as I was sitting there, I remember being like, I don't want my kids to grow up without a mom. So I cherish every breath of air. I appreciate it all. Being able to breathe in deeply, being able to use the restroom, simple things, being able to get up, not being in pain, being able to see my husband, being able to have my children. I cherish every moment with them because I almost didn't have any more of those. So yeah, Once again, thank you so much for your thoughts and prayers and all the great things that you guys have done. I really, truly, genuinely appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.